What's the most difficult truth you've come to accept? Story 1. My first boyfriend that I had for many years and thought I would marry, I found out after a Google search that he had died. I hadn't seen or heard of him in 40 years. It was just surreal that this man that I had once loved so intensely was now gone. I've had a good life and am married to a wonderful man who has fulfilled my life, but still, I thought about this person through the years. Our parting was unresolved. I wished I could have at least caught up with him and found out how his life turned out. Story 2. One of the hardest lessons I've ever learned. I'm a very sentimental person who values the history in long friendships. Was in a 13-year-long friendship with my ex-best friend. Met her in 2007 when I was 15-16 and a sophomore in high school. Instantly became best friends, graduated together. Was there for her every step of the way as she graduated beauty school, got married at 22, then had her son at 23, loved her unconditionally and unwaveringly. As the years passed, we just grew to have very different lives, and we started fighting about the stupidest shit literally all the time. I tried so many countless times to fix our relationship, so many times. Eventually, she gave me more anxiety and stress than joy, and so in 2020, I finally cut her off. Haven't seen her since. Sometimes I still miss her, but I cannot tell you the overwhelming sense of peace I've had since cutting ties. I don't regret the choice I made. Story 3. This lesson got me through the darkest times in my life. I was going through pure and utter hell and couldn't see straight, let alone work out how I should survive. I wanted to, and often did, yell and cry and beg and scream at the entire world for not pausing and acknowledging the pain and suffering that my life had become. The world didn't stop. Nobody else was sitting in the dark and suffering like me. Even those nearest and dearest were still getting on with their lives. Often as they were sitting right next to me, arm around my shoulders in comfort and sympathy, their lives were still moving on. There is a line at the end of the movie Castaway, something like, "Tomorrow the sun will rise, who knows what the tide will bring," realizing that the world didn't care, and certainly wasn't halting on its axis just because shit had gotten out of control for me. That got me through. It helped me to learn how to function in my new reality. It helped me look for the next sunrise, what the next tide would bring. It's a fucking tough lesson, but it's definitely the best and most helpful one I have learned. Story 4. For the past 2 years, I have been hopelessly in love with a friend of mine. We are both in our 20s. I wanted to give him whatever I could. I wanted to make him smile as often as I could, so I told him how I felt. And well, he didn't feel the same. He told me he didn't want a relationship right now. I didn't want to be a burden to him with how I felt. So there were a few occasions where I tried to leave. I told him that I wanted him to find someone to love and be happy with, even if I wasn't her. I didn't want to hold him back from that future. I didn't want to stand in the way of his happiness. Each time he pulled me back to him and insisted that I stay. So I did. We ended up getting physical, but even now, he won't call me his. He won't tell me what he thinks of me or what sort of relationship he wants. This year, I decided to move forward with my life. I didn't think it's healthy for either of us for things to continue the way things have been. I unfollowed him on Instagram and had his account unfollow me too. You can do that on the app these days, and I deleted the app off my phone soon after. We still text now again and work together, and I still love him very, very much, but I am making the slow steps to accepting the fact that we are only ever going to be friends. Story 5. Losing my mother was the most difficult truth I've ever had to accept. She was my best friend, my rock, and the person I turned to for advice on everything. When she got sick, I couldn't fathom a world without her in it. We spent every possible moment together during those last few months, trying to make memories I could hold on to, but when she passed away, I was left with this gaping hole in my life. It's been years now, and while the pain has softened, I still find myself wanting to call her to share good news or seek comfort on tough days. Accepting that she's gone, that she won't be there to see my future unfold, is a truth that still breaks me at times. Story 6. I had to face the harsh reality that not all families are meant to stay together. My parents divorced when I was a teenager, and it shattered the illusion I had of a happy family. For years, I held on to the hope that they might find their way back to each other. I thought if I could just be the perfect child, maybe it would bring them closer, but it didn't. They moved on, found new partners, and created new lives for themselves. Accepting that their happiness didn't include being together was one of the hardest things I've had to come to terms with. It's not the storybook ending I wanted, but it's real, and I've learned to live with it. Story 7. One of the hardest truths I had to accept was realizing that sometimes you are not meant to achieve your childhood dreams. I always wanted to be a professional athlete. I spent years training, sacrificing social life, and focusing entirely on that goal. But as time went on, injuries piled up, and it became clear that my body just couldn't handle the demands of the sport at the professional level. Letting go of that dream felt like losing a part of myself. It took a long time to understand that it's okay to let go, to find new passions and new paths in life. It doesn't mean failure, it just means growing into a different version of yourself.